sounds and the images only hint at the pain.
It's been awful. It's like you don't know how to live anymore.
911 City National Emergency.
What must it be like?
You don't know how to go to work. You don't know how to come home from work.
To lose a child.
There's a hole in our hearts that'll never be filled. I mean, how do you live without your child? It's the light of your life.
It's not just that Stella Mayer and her husband Rick lost their daughter Kaylee, their only child. It's how they lost her, in a car accident in their hometown of Strawnsville with a teenage driver behind the wheel.
It's just totally senseless, avoidable. So this excruciating pain, we shouldn't have to feel it.
And Stella and Rick are not alone in their grief.
The fire truck was on a green light. The SUV ran out in front of it, and it looked bad.
This year, 2 teens died in Akron when their SUV ran a light and slammed into a fire truck. 2 more teens from Chardon died when one of them apparently didn't see a truck coming at a dangerous intersection. Just in the month of May, 2 Perry graduates died in a crash. And Midview High School's Lindsay Rotuno was killed on her prom night with her date behind the wheel. It's been a deadly year in Northeast Ohio. All these teens and more, children, cheated out of the rest of their lives, leaving behind families changed forever.
There are no words to describe the sense of loss. There just isn't.
Stella Mayer broke her silence to speak with us about Kaylee's death, hoping she can help some others escape what she lives with daily.
I don't have anything else to do as a parent except hopefully helping another parent avoid this pain. I don't have school clothes to go buy her, school supplies, the prom dress. All that parental duties are gone. How do you live like that?
You make a difference.
That's what I hope to do.
This is where the accident occurred that killed Kaylee. Her mom, Stella, is now hoping a bill making its way through the Ohio legislature may one day be known as Kaylees Law. It would make 2 major changes in teen driving. First, it would dramatically restrict teen driving at night, and secondly, it would double the length of time a teen needs to have a temporary permit.
It has the potential to save lives.
That's because lawmakers hope to extend from 6 to 12 months how long a teen must have a temporary permit before they can get a license to drive alone.
In that time period, we hope that the driver will become more mature and more responsible.
All 4 of Democrat Mike Sheehy's children were in accidents as teens, and Republican Gary Shearer nearly lost a daughter in a crash involving several teens.
We're just nothing but blessed that they're all still with us. So yes, it's very close and personal to both Mike and me.
There has been good news in battling teen highway deaths. The national trend for both boys and girls has showed a marked decline. About 8,700 teens a year died from crashes in 1975. By 2013, that was down to just over 2,500. Advances in car safety, tested and controlled crashes at the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, have made a huge difference. This is what happens when you crash a 1959 Bel Air into a 2009 Malibu. The cabin of the older car smashes back into the driver while the newer car's front end takes more of the impact, and the airbag protects the driver as well. Beyond safer cars, the second critical factor in reducing teen deaths has been stricter laws targeting younger drivers.
Kind of across the board in states, if you strengthen the provisions, you reduce fatalities.
And that's what lawmakers here in Ohio are now looking at, in part because of a recent disturbing trend. After steadily dropping for decades, teen highway deaths have actually started to creep up again in the last few years.
You get behind the wheel of the car, that car can be a lethal weapon.
And when we turn, we're going to see our first speed limit sign.
Everyone agrees that good driver's ed classes, such as those taught by Bob Adamich at 911 Driving School in Rocky River, make a difference. But AAA says, remember,
even the best driver education course in the world doesn't teach anybody experience. They really need a lot of seat time.
And you're giving them this huge responsibility with this death trap.
Kaylee died in a crash at about 10:30 at night. Studies show that 79% of nighttime crashes in Ohio with 16-year-old drivers behind the wheel occur between 9 and midnight. Right now, new drivers can't drive after midnight during the first year they have their actual license. The proposal would move that restriction back to 9 p.m.
That would have a marked effect on teen fatalities.
It would also, no question, be an inconvenience to parents.
It's going to make it a little bit longer for the parents until their child can actually have control of the car.
Are you trying to balance convenience to the parents and safety to the kids?
Absolutely are. You've hit it right on the head.
April 25th was her birthday.
Stella says when it comes to restricting their driving, we should remember that young teens are not adults.
They can't vote. They have to go to school. They have a curfew. They're kids.
Representatives Shearer and Sheehy say they are thinking of teens such as Kaylee Mayer in making their proposal.
We owe to them for them to not completely died in vain and to be able to make some good out of that.
That's Stella's hope.
I need to keep her memory alive. I don't want this to happen to another family.
When we think of young drivers and tragic accidents and the many different reasons they occur, we never think that the young person we love could be the one in Aaron Cooksey's shoes.
Do you feel like a killer?
Yeah, absolutely.
16 years later, Cooksey still carries the car keys from that day as a reminder, and he still lives every day with the knowledge that he killed his best friend.
Tough question. What's the guilt like?
Indescribable. It takes your identity. I'm forever that guy. I'm that guy that drove drunk, that guy that killed that girl.
Cooksey had been drinking some beer, was over the legal blood alcohol limit when he and his friend, Andrea Calderon, went to meet some people. He was driving in Stark County, speeding, 62 in a 35 zone, his eyes off the road for a couple seconds, laughing at a joke, when a car in front slowed to make a turn.
So I jerked the wheel to the right, truck flipped 3 times, wrapped around a telephone pole.
He awoke to hear someone saying both of them are dead. So he looked at Andrea's stomach, knowing if it moved, she was alive.
And I just said, come on, move, move. It still hasn't.
Andrea's life was tragically over, and Aaron's life was about to become a nightmare that he had created. The middle-class kid, a graduate of Hoover High School who wanted to be a teacher, was now headed down a different path. First stop, prison for 4 years. Even while behind bars, Ohio corrections officials would bring Cooksey out to speak to teens, pounding into them the dangers of drinking and driving.
Nobody thinks it'll happen to them until it happens to them, and then it's too late.
The consequences linger, both emotionally and practically. Aaron now lives here in Philadelphia, in large part because this part of the country has more public trains, more public transportation. That's important because after the crash, Aaron's driver's license was suspended for life.
I'm now 37 years old. I have no license. I can barely find employment if I were to even attempt to.
But the worst part is not the practical, it's the emotional.
Just knowing that you devastated another family's life so deeply, and you'll never recover for something that, just as their family will never recover from what I did.
From a different crash, Chris and Laura DePiro's family has lived, still lives, that nightmare.
We lost 2 children in a car accident.
Erin lit up a room when she smiled and had more friends than her parents could count. Andrew, Drew, was soft-hearted, a kind young soul who dreamed of one day becoming a sportscaster.
I mean, to go back 7 years and say what has changed, your dreams and your hopes have changed and been dashed.
Back in 2010, their 2 teens were backing out of their driveway when a speeding car, driven by a 17-year-old, smashed right into them. But through their pain, Laura remembered something about that other driver.
All I kept seeing was that could be my son. And if the tables were turned and that was my son that killed 2 children, I would want someone to give him another chance.
So Laura did something amazing and asked her family to do the same. To his face, she forgave the driver who killed her children.
And I did it because partly for my own therapy as well. If I didn't forgive him, I don't think I could have grieved the way I needed to grieve.
But grieving wasn't enough for the DePiros, so
It's called the Take Control program, where we jumped in head first.
the monthly program teaches driving skills to teens for free.
The name of the game is experience, and with anything we do in life, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it.
In 6 years, the DePiros have helped raise over $100,000 for the program, all in honor of Aaron and Drew.
Said we can't let this accident define us, and we can't let this accident define them.
But if you're like Aaron Cooksey, it's a different story.
Do you worry that it defines you?
Yeah, I fully believe it defines me.
Cooksey has married and has a 3-year-old little girl who he will someday have to tell what he did. He has spent years trying to make amends by going around the country telling his story to teens.
Is it penance?
Probably, I think, yeah, on a low, yeah, it probably is.
Does it help?
Depends what day it is.
Cooksey says his life has become a lesson, a warning of what can go wrong.
I'll forever be inmate number 422-208.
A lot of people make this bad choice.
Right.
It's just nobody thinks they're going to be you.
Right. Well, yeah, and nobody wants to be me, and that's for all the right reasons. You do not want to be in my shoes.
So if you or your teen are thinking of driving when you shouldn't, think of Aaron Cooksey.
When you carry, the blemish like I do on my resume, I mean, there's no coming back from that.
Bill Scheel, Fox 8 News. Their faces are what get to you. These are just some of the teens in Northeast Ohio who have no futures. All their promise, all they could have been, taken from them and their families in deadly tragedies on Ohio's roads.
We never thought we were going to be the parents, and nobody should ever think that they're going to be the parents of a child who dies. But we all know that there are parents whose children die.
Michael and Meredith Wiles' son Josh, a senior at Hawkins School, was killed 2 years ago when a teenage friend who was driving lost control of an SUV, then smashed into a tree. Rick Duty's son Alex, also a senior at Hawkins, died in that same crash.
The idea that it never would happen to you is where I always thought we were. This isn't going to happen to me. I don't need to worry about this. I will tell you, I thought that.
How important it is to try and find a way to make meaning out of something just so tragic is really hard.
These parents have done that in many ways. First, by establishing the Catch Meaning Foundation in honor of their sons that helps a number of organizations throughout Northeast Ohio. And also by speaking out about the need to, in part, protect teen drivers from themselves and the potentially devastating consequences of their actions.
The kids don't think things through. I know I didn't at that age. I didn't make the connection.
The numbers sadly back that up. One government study showed teenage drivers were more than twice as likely to be involved in a fatal crash when compared to adults.
We're allowing every year thousands of kids to die, teenagers to die. We have to figure out a way to minimize that. We have begun to accommodate way too many distractions, and we need to scale that back by way of using technology, I think.
Touch the brake and go. Which is, in large part, the life's work of civil engineer Dr. Bill Yu at Case Western Reserve University.
You avoided that one, which is good.
Inside a 360-degree car simulator that feels all too real when you're behind its wheel, Dr. Yu has students study human reactions while they are driving distracted. Everything from having a deer cross the road in front of you to having you text what he dictates while you're driving.
From the center of the lane.
You can't find the center of the lane. Dr. Yu says later students can see in a computer analysis how poorly they drove when they were distracted in the simulator.
The fact is that they're more likely to be involved in a traffic accident, so they needed to pay even more attention.
Dr. Yu adds that technology is helping in other ways as well, by having cars learn how to communicate with each other to try and avoid accidents. And he is working on a seatbelt with sensors to detect signs of people driving while drowsy.
Like heart beating rate, breathing rate.
Because your heart rate changes when you're about to go to sleep.
Yeah, similar to breathing rate, yeah.
It gets slower.
Yeah, yes.
And if that can sense it, then maybe the car can alert you.
Yes, yeah.
That's amazing.
But what may be most amazing is how the experience of driving the simulator drives home just how dangerous it is to be distracted behind the wheel. Each student. Wow. But of course, the problem is very few teen drivers will ever sit in a simulator like this one, but all need to know the lessons it teaches.
The truth of the matter is, you got to get to the kids. and that's the hard part.
This past 6 months in Cleveland, with all of the accidents that have happened, parents across the city were aware of all the tragedy. And how do you make that personal?
And Michael says, as a parent, you must learn about the dangers, from speed to distractions to everything in between, that just surround the concept of a teenager driving a car.
People don't like to hear about teen deaths and the horrible accidents that happen, but they certainly don't want to be the parents of somebody who has been a victim of that. And it'd be better for them to be inconvenienced by information than inconvenienced by funerals.
An estimated 7,000 to 8,000 people attended Josh and Alex's funerals, a testament to their families, a testament to the lives they led, and to all the potential that those lives held. Bill Scheel, Fox 8 News.